on architecture. I would like to invite to join me up on the stage our panelists, beginning with Mr. Kolatat Phaiboonnukulk, who is the founder and CEO at Videnvaren Plus Thailand. Please join me on the stage, Kun Kolatat. Yes, please. Kolatat is a smart and green building specialist based in Bangkok. He is CEO at Videnvaren Plus, a building consultant company that specializes in green buildings and building technology. He has previously worked as asset manager and project analyst for Schneider Electric and the Crown Estate in London, England as well. Next, Mr. Arrizky Magetsari, principal at Aedas, Singapore and Indonesia. Please join us on the stage. Of design experience. He is a registered architect in Indonesia and ASEAN with a diverse portfolio of project spreads across Asia and the Middle East as well. Now, he believes in a collaborative design process responding to the client's needs and aspirations whilst achieving a transformative design that engages the complex challenges of cities today. A warm welcome to you. And next, Mr. Muir Livingstone. He's a partner at Foster Partners Australia. Welcoming you to the stage. He is currently based in Sydney, Australia. He completed his architectural studies in 1994 at Edinburgh University and joined the practice shortly after. His project, or his early projects, include Canary Wharf Underground Station in London and the Clark Center Laboratory in California. Muir was also project architect on Deutsche Bank Place in Sydney, and that was from 2002 to 2004, and later he relocated to the Middle East in Abu Dhabi to develop Masdar City. Now that is an exciting master plan for a sustainable city. He might want to share more information with all of you later. And in recent years, he has been specializing in rail projects. Next, Mr. Phitakraxanti, who is the managing director at Tandem Architects. A warm welcome to him as he makes his way to the stage. Since its establishment in 1987, Tandem has completed more than 600 projects and earned BCI Top 10 Thailand Architects Awards, and Taj previously managed the architectural team and supervised all the design works and completed many high-rise condominiums, offices, hotel designs for various developers. And for him, it's all about practicality and inspiring design ideas. So we'll be hearing more from him. And also joining this panel, Ms. Tina Chu, who is the director at PLP Architecture. She's making her way to the stage right now. She has particular expertise in projects involving complex planning and programmatic challenges, as well as specialized experience in the major renovation of complex early 20th century buildings. Based in Singapore and in London, Tina has experience designing and developing, or delivering rather, commercial, residential and mixed-use projects in Southeast Asia as well as in the UK. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause once again, welcoming all the panelists for this first panel discussion on architecture. And the first question, as you're a local here, Kuntaj, you're working here in Thailand, so I thought it would be interesting to start off for the audience, get a local perspective on what some of the particular challenges you faced working here, and also perhaps if you can also outline the opportunities that you're presented with at the same time. So first the challenges and the opportunities here in Thailand first.
Sure, nice to meet you guys. So basically, I think you're coming from abroad, from other countries, coming to Bangkok, of course, it's very hot. And it's getting hotter and hotter every single year. So that is particular challenge that I think we face, and all the clients and all the customers facing. So that's why to design facing the challenge of the climate change, that is very key essence to the trend right now, because everyone getting hotter every year, so you need to protect us from those things. As well as you've seen the recent news on the PM 2.5, it's starting to get worse and worse. for the dust and all the stuff from the architectural burning. So especially on the northern side, and of course Bangkok also get the problem as well. So that's why we have to be mindful of this thing.
What about in terms of labor? Are there challenges there here in Bangkok and in Thailand overall?
Of course, in the Thailand industry for the construction, we always rely on the other abroad labor like Myanmar, like Laos, because the local worker doesn't go on to that industry. So the education on this worker and their well-being is key to help our industry to get better work.
Thank you very much. Now, his response, I'm sure that some of you all of us relate to the issue of I call it the climate emergency, and issues of air pollution. I know this is a big problem in places like India and in China as well, possibly. So these are all the concerns that we need to factor in. Thank you for your response there. Now, here at this year's International Property Awards, we have a theme, and we're very much focused on light. And as you can see, from the graphics and also from the backdrop behind us. And now I would like to move on to discuss the issue of light. And Kolatat, you specialize in green buildings. I'm very, very pleased to hear. And how important is it when it comes to incorporating natural light in architecture?
So from sustainability's perspective on natural light, it's to influence many things, and I've been working with thermal efficiencies and energy efficiencies of the building, and how the natural light is truly influenced directly into the heat dissipation of the building, and especially in the locational context of tropical climate. You could see that this could cause so many problems because many buildings, many types of rooms and architectures does require natural light, whether it's going to be offices or residential development. But the thing is, here in this climate, it's too hot. It receives excessive heat from the outside, and there's a few solutions that could come to tackle these problems. It could be using of the double or triple glazing windows with methane gap inside, so it have a lower thermal transmittance, which means that it's harder for the heat to penetrate in the building. So in this perspective, for example, goes for office, because I'm very sure that a lot of people are doing commercials or office development. Usually the ideal lux, which is the unit for the illuminance in the buildings, goes around, the ideal is 300 to 500 lux. And for that to create an ideal environment where everything is optical, everything is relevant to the productivities and alertness of people that's needed. So you could see that in the modern development, you can see a roof light, you can see a lot of places like offices or studio that incorporating more sunlight and natural light in to increasing productivities and alertness. And that has a statistics and empirical data that you see everywhere, and it's worth promoting it.
I think that's a very, very important point that you mentioned there, that in terms of natural light, it does really increase productivity among the staff, wellness as well, and it's really good for energy efficiency. Thank you for sharing there. And now, both Kuntaj and Kolatat, you mentioned how it's really hot here in Thailand. Have you been to the Middle East yet? Muir has. No?
Oh yes,
right? I'm actually based in Doha, and I think it's like about 47 degrees at the moment. You can relate, no?
Very much.
All right, now the next question is for you. Let's take things from a spatial point of view now. What is the role of natural light in your designs at your company, Fosters and Partners? And can you take us through some of your project examples, please?
I think natural light was the admission of natural light and using natural light to reveal spaces was very much a kind of a key tenet of the modern movement in architecture. The new materials, new techniques, when I say new, I'm talking about the 1930s, to let light into buildings, reconfigured how we thought about buildings and how we made them interact with the outside. Now, it's been a natural light and admission of natural light, whilst also taking on board the need to control solar gain, in other words, too much sunlight entering the building, has been a real key driver for many of our iconic projects. I'm just, for example, thinking of one in particular, the German Parliament building in Berlin, the Reichstag, which the admission of natural light was through a reimagination of the dome. There was originally a dome in the building, but it had been destroyed in the war and needed to be rebuilt. So our competition-winning scheme for that project reimagined a dome over the debating chamber of the German Parliament as a device to let in light. It has a kind of inverted pyramid with a series of mirrors which controls the light and brings it deep into the heart of the building. Now, this isn't just about illuminating a space. This is also a kind of metaphor for democracy in that building. Letting in light, transparency to a democratic process, showing the politicians on view to the public who can get access to this roof space. It's more than just about letting in light. It really is a statement on democracy. So I think that's at one end of the spectrum, just about how light and admission of light actually means something much more. It's our connection to nature, our connection to the daily diurnal circles, but also a bit of a statement on how a state can run and implications on democracy. I mean, another example that I'm just thinking about, especially when I was coming through the airport last night, is at Stansted Airport in the UK. That was where our practice, Foster & Partners, kind of turned on its head the conventional way of looking at an airport. Airports normally had very heavily serviced roof spaces. The roof was filled with the air conditioning, structure, mechanical ventilation, all the things which allowed the space to be habitable. Stansted did it in a different way. It put all those services underneath people. It connected a lightweight roof with a series of tree-like structures, and it was about getting light into the airport and a clarity of space to allow you to look through to the plane that you were leaving on. Many of the things that have been lost as we progressively distanced ourselves from the natural environment. So that was getting light into a building, natural light, was a real design driver for that. But it also served the purpose of reconnecting people on the travel experience with the outside world.
Thank you for sharing with us some examples of your iconic projects. I really encourage you to Google if you're not familiar, but really stunning indeed. That's the Reichstag in Berlin, and he also mentioned London Stansted Airport in a powerful statement you said there, linking light to democracy. Thank you. Next, let's go to Mr. Arrizky. Now, you have many projects at Aedas, both ongoing and completed as well. You've also got projects in the Middle East. Can you tell us, please, we've talked a lot about natural light and the importance of natural light, but artificial light also still has a role to play. So can you bring that into the discussion now? And have there been a key component of building designs when it comes to both forms of light?
Thank you. I think it's a very interesting questions because we as humans, despite all the emergence of the new technology, the AI, the whatever, we still, as humans, there's a needs that haven't changed from the last, I don't know how many years, right? We still need interactions, we need inclusivity, we need accessibility, we need connections, and we want to be happy. And one of the key of elements that bring happiness to people are lights, whether it's natural lights, whether it's artificial lights. So that's the case in some of the projects that we work on, for instance, casinos project, right, where people are not allowed to see sunlight to a certain extent. So we tend to play with different type of lights that come in through to the space, and how we try to convey the artificial lights into something that is special and tailored depending on the function itself. So we work closely with lighting designers to create ambience light for certain type of effects that people want to perceive in terms of the space. For instance, again, I'm talking about casino because there's a lot of artificial lights in casino projects. They want to have bright. They want people to forget actually it's a night time, right? They want to feel energetic all the time and all that. That brings how important artificial lights into a space that we design.
Tina, I'm gonna come to you now. There is a strong connection between lighting, sustainability, and well-being, isn't there? What is your take on that? Can you perhaps share your position?
Yes, I think from hearing from the panel, my fellow panelists, they've all brought very different aspects of light and how important it is in how health and well-being, how overconsumption can be unsustainable, and I actually have that fact that one of the panelists was talking about earlier, that having sufficient daylight in your spaces makes you 40% more productive. So that's a statistics that's proven. So we need to design spaces that actually allows the natural daylight to come in, and it allows us to function and produce effectively. But I think in parts of the world where there's a lot of strong daylight, particularly here, and I benefit from working on projects in London and Singapore, is that where there is potentially a lot of sunlight coming in, we have to use a lot more energy to cool the spaces down so that we become more comfortable. So I think there needs to be, the key word is balance when we think about design. Not every design will work across the world. In the UK, we crave light. Every time the sun comes out, we want to go out and see the daylight. But when I come to Singapore, or come in Southeast Asia, I'm reminded that I'm really, really quite thankful for the covered walkways that protects me from the daylight. So it's really quite different in terms of the environments we design for. So I think to be comfortable, we have to be holistically approaching the site, the context, and the use.
You know what? I'm just giggling here. How you say you appreciate the shaded spots, right? For me, an umbrella is handy when it's raining and when it's really bright and shiny outside. Yes, and that's the cultural differences, and that's really interesting to factor in as well. Thank you for your thoughts there. Let's move on now and talk about the future of lighting. Kolatat, I'm coming back to you. The future of lighting and its connection with smart buildings. Let's talk about this. They're becoming more and more integrated systems, are they not?
Yes, they are. They are become more integrated than those days. Now it have technologies that could apply the lighting in various circumstances. And right now, there's a lot of lighting system that could change the colors, change the light intensities, and all of that integrated, all of that just to be suitable for the occupants, according to the dwellers inside the dwellings. And from my experience, last year I've been to a European and Asian PropTech Award in Belgium and one of them in Hong Kong. And from my experience, I've seen a lot of technology integration where it applies all of that just according to the occupier. Because, linings, when it's come to lining, it's come in many factors. It's about how many hours you use that building, how much intensity do you need for the building. what kind of activity or program located inside the architectures, and all of that is contributing to the wellness of the occupant. Because lighting, artificial lighting, natural lighting, all of them are truly influenced to the wellness of the occupant by emotional, physical, they use cooler tones of the light to create productivities and alertness. They use the warmer tone to make the occupant tend to be more relaxed and rested, and I think that's how I see the futures of lighting system.
Great, thank you. Does anybody else have anything else to add about the future of light, perhaps? If not, we can also go on to the next question, but at this point, let me just pause and then look over to our friendly audience here. If you do have any questions, please, at any point, you can raise your hands and join us in this discussion. Or if you need more details, information, I'm sure the speakers will be more than happy to respond to your question. I think there's a gentleman, this light is very blinding as we're talking about light, everybody. Is that a gentleman I see standing in the back?
Yeah.
Oh, great, we hear something. So light and sound, they go together quite well in this scenario. Please.
Yeah, good morning everybody. My name is Anujay. I represent Genesis Planners from India. And this question is for, anybody can take this question, but I think the most crucial part of it we did not touch upon was the circadian lighting. Circadian lighting is very much connected to our biology. The way that we are built, our skin actually works like a photovoltaic membrane that generates energy. We are built to be exposed in the sun, and we are creating architecture as another skin which actually modulates and hinders our wellness, basically. The people who are born closer to the equator have a skin control modulation which lets the melatonin to come in or stop it. And the closer you live to the north or south pole, you have fairer skin. So that is the architecture of our biology. And I think if you want to look at the future of light, I think we need to learn from our biologies and create this second skin of architecture, what we are doing. And any comments, please feel free.
That is a very, very interesting point. The point Mr. Anujay has just raised there, circadian lighting. Is there anybody here on this panel who would like to add to that? But I have to say, Muir, please, you know what? I said earlier I bring out my umbrellas. I should actually be more exposed to the sunlight because, as Mr. Anujay says, it's very, very important for our health, and therefore I am low, deficient in vitamin D, and therefore I am taking supplements. So more sunbathing for me. Over to you, Muir.
That is a very interesting question, and something which really should be at the foremost in our thoughts when looking at lighting design. So, my experience with circadian lighting and trying to work to diurnal cycles and the like, right now happens to be in an underground station, in a metro station, where we introduce kind of more like 4,000 Kelvin lighting in the morning, so it freshens the passengers up. It challenges, awakes them for the day ahead. This is obviously an underground station, so it's a building that has no connection with the real diurnal circles until you hit ground level. In the evenings, it's a much warmer light as people are going home during the evening to kind of I suppose reset them for the different rhythms of the evening post the working day. So it's and that's maybe a very simple use of it, but that's my experience of trying to work with circadian lighting systems in spaces which have no access to daylight or sunlight in a metro station.
Very interesting response there. Thank you for that. When you were talking about casinos, how there's lack of artificial light. Maybe we can incorporate his ideas into casino projects as well. Okay, well, thank you very much once again to Anuj for your question or for your intervention there. I think it keeps us thinking about some other aspects which is also very key in terms of the future of light. Let's now go back to a point that Tina brought up, and that is well-being. It's quite the buzzword. We often hear it when it comes to marketing and also promoting property these days. If you could offer your thoughts on how we incorporate wellness into designs.
Well, I think we need to, in the primary status, is to design buildings that's fit for the purpose that it serves. And it needs to, natural daylight and artificial lighting is very important to making sure that you're comfortable. Because, you know, I take the example now that this is actually in my eye. It's straining to see you on the floor, but I'm feeling uncomfortable. So having control, having the technology that we use today to control my local environment makes me more comfortable and makes me work and produce better and interact better with everyone. But that's something that everyone in the industry is actually doing actively, and we've been doing that for the past decade or so. Where we see wellness now, moving forward into the future, is how we start to integrate it into our daily lifestyles and daily routine. Because we're becoming more aware and alert about our own health, our own wellness, how we improve our health going forward, aging, for one. And this is something that we like to call the life-centric approach to what we do in terms of design. We make sure that the buildings we build allow adaptive reuse in terms of how we can change our behavior, how we use those spaces, so they become more agile. I take one example, commercial buildings and office buildings. You can do this in tall buildings and obviously shorter buildings. And one example in shorter buildings, how you might do this is promote walking up the stairs and walking down the stairs. A lot of our stairs are enclosed in concrete. It's very boring, it's just stressful to walk up and down. I wouldn't want to do it, but in one of our buildings that we've recently completed in London, the Arbour building, actually uses light in the stairwells. And this is not just the main stairwells, it's the back of house stairwells. It uses light so that you are incentivized to walk downstairs instead of taking a lift downstairs. Actually, that eases your lifting capacity as well in buildings as well. So there is more than one gain in terms of your own health, but the operation of the building. And I think a lot more of these things in terms of design can come into buildings and how we create architecture to become more sustainable well.
Sounds like a great plan there. Thank you for sharing, Tina. Let's now go over to Muir once again, and still on wellness. Please tell us more about your project Forestiers, how that project incorporates wellness.
I mean, I think probably one of the forefront projects in our studio at the moment, and I'm talking about projects globally around the world, is the Forestiers project in Bangkok. So only a few kilometres from here. It's a master plan for a mixed-use development, but it really has wellness at the centre of its thinking. And this is wellness from everything from connection with nature. It's got 3 different park areas and a very sophisticated strategy to re-green there were former fish ponds, regreen them with redeveloping the local ecology and creating more biodiversity. But the creation of these areas is very closely connected with the residential units, which are almost, in the medium-rise blocks, they're almost pulled apart. So rather than just having internalised corridors, they're pulled apart to be naturally ventilated, shaded from the elements, shaded from the rain, but to encourage breezes through them and to encourage sight through to the forest beyond. So that's one aspect of wellness, but another aspect of wellness in that particular project is building around multi-generational living. So creating residential spaces to live in a kind of modular format, that are tailored to multi-generational living. 3 generations living together, trying to reinvent things from the past that are modern life, especially in large cities where people are more and more spread apart. Architecture and looking at this at a master plan level can try and bring that back together again. So engagement with nature, creating community both within multi-generational living units, but also carefully considered social spaces, interaction spaces, all helping put wellness at the centre of our thinking. I mean, wellness is another branch, I guess, in the widest sense of sustainability, but it's going beyond the conventional notions of sustainability that we've been talking about over the last couple of decades, energy conservation, etc. This is really going back to what humans really need: connection with nature, connection with people, and the general sense of wellness.
Very fascinating indeed, and that's the Forestier. It's not too far from here, so if you would like to go and visit the site and see it for yourselves, you know who to contact, and perhaps he's available to take you there and offer his expertise. There you go, thank you for that. Now, I've been told that we only have about 5 minutes left, but I do want to touch on biophilia. So we'll move on to that very quickly. There's a strong connection with wellness and biophilic elements. So let's talk about that now. Arrizky, this question is for you. How important are these elements to you, and how are you and your team at Aedas working to incorporate them?
I think this is a key concept that we have been exploring quite a bit, especially the post-pandemic. We realized how important greeneries, connections, sunlight to our well-being. I don't know about in Bangkok, but when it was in lockdown in Singapore, we are stuck in these tiny apartments. We cannot go out. So when the time the government lifted up the restrictions, everybody just go out to the park. So this concept actually very fascinating with us. We're trying to incorporate multi-level greeneries in our design. We introduce public realm with greens, not just at ground floor, at the podium level of the building, sky terraces, sky ridges, trying to bring these public realms with greeneries back into the public. So that's a very key concept that we have been exploring the last few years.
Taj, could we get your thoughts too, please?
Yeah, that's the key. I'm very looking forward to turn Bangkok into Singapore, but we can't. That's why the design has to integrate the nature into our society instead of waiting for other world. Because as I said, biophilic is the way we brought closer the gap between nature and human. So I think that the way we do design to help us expose nature more will benefit everyone. Just for the resort, you imagine there's the hotel guest room with the bed, you see the view, and with the bathroom at the back, you don't see the view. But for that project, we changed that. We decided to pull the corridor off and then create another void behind the bathroom, and then we open the bathroom up. And especially that is the low rise, we can plant the trees. That's why then you had the view from front to back. Bathroom, you also get the private view for the bathroom on each room. So that helped to bring the nature in. Even say you take a shower, you can still see the tree. Basically.
Excellent. Let's get more examples of biophilia from Tina. You tell us, please, more about your project Park Nova.
Yes, Park Nova is all about the biophilic benefits. It's a high-rise building. It's near completion. It's in Singapore. So it's situated along the orchard area. So if you're familiar with the area, it's very lush and green. There's a canopy of trees. So our idea is actually to adopt that, and we were really inspired by the site of how you can bring the greenery up into the residential towers so that every apartment, every residential unit has closeness to nature. And it has this very recognizable iconic shape which takes the form of a butterfly. So if you Google Park Nova, it shows you a butterfly form, but actually the units are very rectangular. The units are wrapped in a butterfly shape, and the wings of the butterfly are actually deep planters. And every living room, bedroom, and even actually some of the bathroom spaces are wrapped against these greenery, and the plants have been actually selected so that they are best behave to the things that you're doing inside the room. But actually, it has a lot of benefits in terms of having the window open and naturally tempers the air, filters the pollution from the roads, wind, noise, and it has a lot of environmental benefits, which offsets some of the heavy use of the AC that we still need to use.
All right, thank you. Very quickly, ESG now, and that's environmental, social, and governance. You're an expert in this field. Now, wellness and biophilia are all part of this ESG mix, is it not? Perhaps you can clarify.
Yes, so since the time is running out, I'll give you two short examples. One of them is environment, one of them is social.
Excellent.
So for the environment, it's about integrating, think about materialities, think about how you design to make it more passive, more connecting with nature, and all of that incorporated with biophilic design, how it closing the gap between nature and human, and all of that could truly implementing on how you're promoting sustainability, from low carbon to how you creating a passive ventilation system in that. And for the social, since biophilic design is influence physical, emotional, or even psychological betterment of a person, I do find that a good biophilic design will helping how human integrated and implementing the building in the better way. That's my opinion.
All right, my final question, really have to rush through this, is for all of you. If you could tell us what is exciting you most about future developments. Tina, maybe we can start with you. Perhaps touch on the prospect of carbon-conscious design, maybe, or other aspects. Let us know.
I'll be very quick. I think building buildings is highly extractive. It's a very intensive carbon process that we extract from the earth to build. So when we build new buildings, we need to be conscious that they are agile enough for the next generation of our children's children to be able to use them without demolishing them. I know that it's very tough in some countries because development has been used to cater for the population growth, economic growth, and they're not always built with that in mind because they're built with speed in mind. So I'm looking forward to how we can, across the world globally, each in our own, adapt to and redress the carbon issue.
Thanks. And now, Taj, future looking here, developments in residential design, especially as we are experiencing an aging population in many countries around the world. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think we have to touch base with the elder generation nowadays, since the elder population of Thailand is getting more and more, become a trend as in Japan and other major countries. And also, I would like to touch base on our sponsor, Go Ahead, Elixir and stuff. They have the very own R&D on the product design that do this kind of toilet that cater for safety and everything for the elders. So that is the key to our design as well, and especially every other thing.
And what's exciting you, Muir, as you're the specialist in transportation?
Okay, thank you for that. That's very grand. I think if I were to sum it up, and it kind of is a little bit connected with transportation projects, but our focus in the office at the moment is integrated design, doing more with less. And I think that feeds into sustainability, it feeds into how we work with other disciplines. We don't stratify our projects as much with here's a bit the engineer does, here's a bit the architect does, here's a bit. It's truly integrated design, and that allows us to do more with less, which is kind of one of the most sustainable things we can do. So that's our kind of mantra going forward.
Arrizky, you have 20 seconds. What excites you?
I think what excites me the most are, how we are going back, what's the human needs, more and more connections to nature as discussed with my peers here, how we can be better in connections with nature. I think that's the most important.
Excellent, and I definitely agree with you. Thank you very much. And over to you, you have the last word here, Kolatat. So topics like big data and AI, robotics in design and in building management,
if you could tell us a bit more to wrap up on that.
Oh yes, luckily Videnvaren Plus we are working with technology distributor companies from across the region, and some of them are doing digital twins, some of them doing AI building management, might related to hardware, and this may sound cliche, but I would say that we all could agree that the next big thing in our industry is going to be big data and AI and advanced hardware like robotics, and all of that integrated together. Big data creating a massive swarm of data where you could analyze it, things about all the specific statistic information about each person inside the dwellings, or AI, how it could improve the effectiveness of the big data as it applies, and use the hardware to respond to all of that, and that's really integrated together could create the future in our industry. That is excited about that.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. A big round of applause, please, to our panelists here. We do truly appreciate your presence and you coming in to share with us your experience and expertise. Once again, Mr. Kolatat, Mr. Arrizky, Mr. Muir, and also Mr. Taj and Ms. Tina there. May I request for you to kindly take your seats, stay with us.